Good morning, everybody. What is up? How is everybody doing on this fine morning? It's no longer morning anymore. It's 12:40. I have to work tonight at Harry's, and I just want to say what's up to everybody, front of the house, back of the house. Thank you for all your support, your reading, your subscriptions. I hope everybody's having a blessed and a wonderful day. Shout out to my boy Joe Kelly and Gus and Curtis White, my favorite peeps at Harry's. You know who you are. But again, I just want to thank God for each and every one of y'all because every one of y'all brings something to the table that's positive, it's beneficial for everybody else, even yourself, because we all need each other. We are all we got. Nothing further. Let's get on with chapter 11. So let me ask you something real quick. How do y'all feel about the Chinese triads and the events and the action and the story? Let me know how everything is going. I want raw, uncut opinions if you feel like giving me some because I'm interested and I want to hear what everybody's got to say. So without further ado, let's get on with chapter 11 of Italian Mafia Saga, book 1. Chapter 11. On Thursday, November 14th, 1957, at 625 McFall Road, in the sleepy hamlet area of Appalachian, New York, members of the Mafia came together to a national Cosa Nostra meeting called and orchestrated by the boss of the Genovese family, Vito Genovese, to discuss mafia operations such as drug rackets, loan sharking, and gambling rackets, along with the dividing of the control of the illegal operations, which was done by the recently murdered Albert Mad Hatter Anastasia. But this meeting would expose the mafia to the FBI and result in 58 arrests. Such were on the list of guests who attended. Carlo Gambino was present at the meeting. Max Denisi was also present. Vito, the boss of the Genovese family, was arrested. Joe Profaci, the boss of the Profaci family, was arrested. Joseph Bonanno was arrested. Gerald Catena, the underboss of Genovese. Michelle Big Mike Miranda, consigliere of Genovese's. Natale Evola, underboss of Joe Bonanno. Carmine Galante, Capo Regime of Bonanno. John Boventre, former underboss to Bonanno. Carmine the Doctor Lombardozzi, Capo Regime of the Gambino family. Joseph Ricciabano, Paul Big Paul Castellano, Armand Reva, Vincent Rayo, consigliere of Thomas Lucchese, Giovanni Big John Ormento, Joseph Rosado, Joseph Magliocco, underboss of Profaci, Joey Barber Jr., Ignatius Canoni, Bartolo Guccia, as well as mafia families from Boston, New Jersey, upstate New York, Philly, attendees from Midwestern states such as Sam Giancana and Anthony Accardo from the Chicago outfit, and mafia members from the West states also attended. In the early 1950s, Vito Genovese was on a power drive to take over the Luciano family. Frank Costello was the boss at the time. Lucky was in jail, and Vito thought the time was right to assume the position as boss. But in order to do so, Vito Genovese would have to take out Costello and his allies. Genovese decided to team up with Carlo Gambino against Albert Anastasia's family. In May of 1957, Costello survived a botched hit that prompted him to step down as the boss. In October of the same year, Albert Anastasia wasn't so lucky when he was blown away by shotguns in a barber chair in New York. Now Genovese had control over his own family, but he wanted to take over the mob as a whole. During the 1950s, the mob was going through big changes in leadership as the new faction attempted to gain control over the mafia, taking it away from the old faction. In 1957, Genovese called for a national meeting of bosses, where 100 members of the mafia would get together to discuss mafia operations and new leadership changes. The meeting was to be held at Joe Barber's house in Appalachian, west of New York City, near the Pennsylvania border. The day before the meeting took place, Joe Barber went into town. and ordered expensive cuts of steak in preparation for the Mafia meeting. But the same place was used a year earlier, which Carmine Galante was present for. Sometime after that, a local state trooper by the name of Edgar Croswell put a surveillance team on Barber's home while expensive and lavish cars began rolling into that quiet town. The New York police began to grow suspicious. License plate numbers were taken down, and every car was registered to known criminals. The meeting went on inside the house, and the police set up roadblocks outside. Out of 100 men, 50 managed to escape, rather than help propel Vito Genovese to the Mafia limelight as the new boss of bosses. This was to be the end for Vito Genovese. Many mobsters blamed him for unwanted press as a result of the meeting called by Genovese in the first place. Friday, August 26th, 2022. 110 Sunfish Court, Gallatin, Missouri. The unexpected assassination the other day had reached the ears of enough of the descendants of the five families of New York City that a commission was called. But with Denisi as the prime minister of the Mafia, he decided that the only ones who were to attend this meeting at an undisclosed location were the five bosses of New York City and one underboss from each family. Denisi was a soldier under Carlo Gambino when the Appalachian meeting took place, and Denisi was there with the boss himself. He remembered being one of the 58 who were arrested that Thursday after the house was raided by local authorities. Denisi saw no need for a large guest list for this one. The 101-acre piece of property just northeast of Lake Viking was the getaway home of Max Denisi for such a time as this. Denisi was prepared for this meeting with the bosses of the five families of New York City to discuss the murder of former Denisi crime family capo, Dino Calabrese. Max came to the front windows of the two-story, $2.5 million home as five separate vehicles came down the long drive path headed to the home of the Gallatin Commission. It was his guests. They'd all taken their own flights and had their own transportation. The first to slow to a stop was a Champagne 2022 Mercedes-Benz S550 sedan with the boss of the Gambino crime family, Del Toro Michio, with his underboss, Jimmy Vendelarino, as Denisi ordered. The second was a black 2022 armored Bentley Continental with the boss of the Genovese crime family, Falco Scarfoni, with his underboss, Charles Massarelli, inside. The third was a blue-gray armored 2022 Infiniti F-35. Inside it was the boss of the Colombo family, Gregorio Corcellino, and his underboss, Michael Rotunda. The last two were an armored Audi RS7 and a black armored Mercedes Maybach S560 with the bosses of the Bonanno family, Roberto Menicallo, who was out on bail awaiting trial for racketeering indictments, and Michael Liturco, the boss of the Lucchese family, and their underbosses, Cristiano Ornello and Antonio Baricelli. This is another secret Mafia commission meeting. The last one was in November of 1985, almost 1 month before the ordered death of Paul Castellano. The next month, on the evening of the 16th. There was no need for all the extra company because they were not looking for speculations on the Calabrese murder, which they knew the FBI was all over like a steak to 9 Rottweiler Rottweilers. Every one of them probably had their teeth deep in a section, and all of them were shaking their heads and growling like beasts, trying to rip it apart. The topics were Dino Calabrese and Donovan Lovato. The bosses said their respectful greetings to each other and to the prime minister of the Mafia, with kisses on the cheek and handshakes, then entered the home. Denisi closed the door. The FBI field office in Kansas City, Missouri was immediately notified when the FBI field office in New York City learned through intercepted phone calls between Max Denisi and the boss of the Gambino family, Del Toro Michio, 1 week ago. Mr. Del Toro Amicio, good morning. I'm very sorry for bothering you, Denisi said in Italian on an intercepted recording being reviewed. No excuses are needed. What can I help you with this morning? Del Toro replied in perfect Italian. I call a meeting between the families, and the only ones who have to participate are the heads of each family. 1 week. My home in Gallatin, Missouri. See you in a week. Someone played the Calabrian in his room at the Planet Hollywood Hotel, Denise said. Yes, what bad luck. Even if the unpaid debts are destined to be resolved somehow, who ordered the removal of that traitor without adequate measures? Amicio asked. I don't know. I didn't order anything. The cock has been on the run for 22 years, and I knew where it was. 8 years ago, Calabrese was on the island of Oahu. We have to talk about it, all of it. 1 week, Denise said in a firm tone. And that was the end of the phone call. The FBI knew these bosses were meeting, and they knew it was about the recent murder of Dino Calabrese. The New York field office contacted the Kansas City, Missouri field office, and now the field office is watching these 5 mafia bosses enter the home of Max Denisi. Had they known sooner, they would have bugged the home. But all they have to go with is evidence of this meeting and not a word to hear from the inside. This is a new mafia meeting location, and the FBI was unprepared. The 5 mafia bosses took their seats in the living room of this enormous home. The cigars were fired up, the drinks were made, and everyone was ready to get to the heart of the matter, the murder of Dino Calabrese. Gentlemen, all of yous know that Calabrese betrayed the mafia by attempting to exterminate my underboss, Antonio Lovato, 22 years ago. I know that Lovato was raking in millions from his rackets when he was alive. But Calabrese betrayed us all by what he did, Denise explained. Yous made Lovato the underboss instead of Calabrese. Carlo Gambino knew Castellano was a hustler, and he knew the family would profit from Paul's wisdom when it came to numbers. So Gambino appointed his brother-in-law, Paul Castellano, as the boss. That infuriated his capo, John Gotti, and he fixed that little problem when he orchestrated the Castellano murder in '85, Gregorio said. And what about Salarizo and Cellini? They were involved too, Falco Scarfoni added. Where are they? They're dismembered and dispersed. That's all that needs to be said. And they were dealt with, and so was Calabrese, Denise replied, by Antonio Lovato's son. Or were we not going to discuss that? Del Toro Amicio said with a business stare. First off, Denise said, then stood up and pointed at the table. How and when I deals with matters is my fucking business. You hear me? Leave that wise guy bullshit for the stage. Now I know that Lovato murdered Calabrese. We all do. But who gave the consent? Lovato went to pick up a bomb from the FedEx on Paradise and took it right to Calabrese's hotel room. Lovato's never met Dino. Someone got in contact with him, Charles Massarelli said. That's what I'm getting at. Lovato is being protected and directed by an anonymous motherfucking informant. And we need to find out who the fuck it is, Denise replied with anger, sitting back down in his chair. Let's look at the entire scenario, Roberto Manicallo said, then took a sip of his scotch. Antonio had rackets all over New York City. Labor unions, garbage and sanitation companies, drugs, loan sharking, and Bricks was a murder for hire under your command. And just what are you getting at, Manicallo? You saying I had something to do with Brick's murder? My own son? Denise asked with a murderous grin, staring deep into the green eyes of the Bonanno family boss. No. But how could you not see that Dino Calabrese was after your seat as boss? If Calabrese could get Lovato's money, he could get you out of the way. The money'd never be traced to him, and I can't think of too many stupida madre di putanas that would rat out on Calabrese. And he co-conspired and participated with 2 men of your own family, Tony and Louis, Manicallo added. Who are dead, Denise interrupted. And you failed to care that it wasn't you, Manicallo interrupted. Lovato's been working for someone. If we don't find out who it is and take care of it, Massarelli said. Nobody's going to lay a drop of fucking sweat on Lovato, Denisi said in an angry raised tone, standing up from his seat. Not a fucking one of yous, no good slime ball son of a bitches is going to touch Lovato. And then if any of yous come near Donovan, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, I'll make a fucking 1,000-piece puzzle out of yous and put you on a shelf in Target. There was a silence in the room as Denisi paced once around the table. Nobody was in fear of their lives, but they respected the godfather of the Mafia. I'm going to find out who's to answer for this, but let's not go to any unnecessary disputations over this kid, Denisi said. No one came for the intent of beginning any disagreements, Denisi, but Lovato's son's got a plan. He steps out after 10 years of being in hiding by the FBI, and you're telling me that big bald kid I sees on the news is Bricks' son? Where the hell's he been? Those two Scarafaggio agenti federales that gave the media report, Martino fucking Demores and Donald Searing, fucking shit, said Lovato died along with his parents. No survivors. Now what the fuck's Brick's son up to? Cristiano Ornello said angrily. I'll bet it's over money, Michael Laturco said. I've been quiet, but I think Bricks was killed because someone else owed money and they decided to write some bad checks and told Mario Sigliato that he'd get rich if he killed Bricks. I can't prove that. I'm just saying that's what I think happened. 3 of your boys failed in their attempt to betray you by whacking Bricks. And now Lovato's son blows Calabresi to the moon because he's in the way of someone else. Someone out there wants control over Vegas, and they're trying to make Lovato a puppet. Enough, Denisi said, then stood up. We're not here to talk about rackets and restitution. We're going to find out who ordered that hit on Calabresi, and I give you all my word. I'm going to deal with it. Still, Friday, August 26, 2022. Somewhere deep in the Mojave Desert, 60 miles outside Las Vegas, Nevada. Sitting in the AC, inside his white H2 limousine, Matteo Corbenzo was waiting, watching for the 2019 Gulfstream G650 carrying 100 kilos of 100% pure cocaine. And then he saw it. I see you. Come on with my money, Valatori, Matteo said as the plane landed on an empty stretch of highway. The hatch opened and out of the cabin came Jose Quintiez and Juan Coyaboros. Matteo got out to meet them. The shipment was being offloaded onto a forklift and pallet that was in the back of the 20-foot moving truck. The 3 men didn't conversate as much as they watched all this pure cocaine individually wrapped in blue plastic packaging being loaded onto the truck. After 3 trips from the plane to the truck, the delivery was complete. Senor Valatori sends his gratitude for your business. Until next time, Senor Corbenzo, Jose said, then both of the men returned to the plane. Matteo didn't wait for the plane to leave. The limo and the truck headed back to a warehouse he bought. 4150 North Land Road, Suite 105 and 110, all the same building. A 7,590 square foot industrial garage for storing all the cocaine. Who would expect a warehouse this close to Las Vegas Boulevard? Max Denisi was waiting beside his personal blue-gray 2022 Maserati Gran Turismo as the limo pulled into the garage, and one of the illegals that works for Matteo closed the garage door. The 20-foot truck backed into the service entrance, and the door was closed. You finally got this garage ready, eh? Denisi said, approaching Matteo. This is the base of my operation. So close to Vegas, the Metro PD won't even know it. Call Lovato and tell him to meet us here now, Matteo said. then headed upstairs to his remodeled lounge as his employees unloaded his truck. What do you need him for? Denise asked, pulling out his phone. Lavato's Italian and French, Matteo said, turning around on the stairway to address Denise's question. But he can still work for us. Us? You think me and yous are some sort of collaboration? Denise asked in a stern tone. Definitely not, Maxie boy. But he can handle my affairs until I don't need him anymore. I think you're the one that needs to be content, Denise said, following Matteo into his upstairs loft. Denise eyed the 6 gorgeous strippers on the poles, spinning and twisting like this as sapphires, bikini-clad women. And then there was a female bartender, apparently South American from the features. Content with what? Life? Matteo asked, and sat down on the 15-foot black velvet couch. Quarantilla, a glass of Grey Goose vodka, please. Right away, Senor Matteo, the bartender said, then began fixing his drink. With whatever life he's got left. Lavato's, Denise began, not his dad. If he thinks he can stop a 1,000-year-old ancient triad, he's lost his marbles, Matteo said, then laughed, receiving his drink from Quarantilla. I'm talking about yous, Denise said, putting his phone away. You obviously didn't hear me. And Lavato's on his way. Good. And I did hear you. It's just that speculation deserves no time wasted on it. Lavato's not going to do anything. He trusts me. Probably more than he does you, not to impose any reason to doubt on you. Matteo watched all the cocaine being offloaded and taken into a custom-built refrigerator set to keep all the cocaine solidified and in perfect condition. Denise got up to join him. Sly as yous are? You've never done me wrong, Matteo, Denise said, and then a worker came through the door. Hey, alguien afuera, Senor Matteo, the man said. Lavato's here, Matteo said and looked at the worker. Go and let him in and bring him here. Yes, sir, the worker said. Both men watched through the windows as the worker went to a side door, let Donovan in, and escorted him up to the lounge. Donovan came inside to find both Denise and Matteo Corbinzo over by the office windows overlooking the floor below. They were looking right at him as he closed the door. What do you say, Donny? Denise said, greeting Donovan with a handshake and a kiss on the cheek. You tell me. I was at school when you called and told me to meet you here. It was I who requested your presence, Donovan. In 4 days, I want you to fly to New York City. My pilot, Geraldo, will take you there, of course. But I want you to handle a little business involving an old chap of mine named Louis Veneto, works at Mar Terminals across the New York Bay. A couple of thugs are barking up the wrong tree, and I need you to take them both out for a walk. What's in it for you? Donovan asked, playing the devil's advocate, looking at Corbinzo. A well-lived and well-earned life for me. All that's down there is prime investment. I don't need anything. Come with me. Donovan followed Matteo Corbinzo through a door and into a dark room until he turned the lights on. This was a storage room of some kind. Matteo opened the first cabinet, and LED lights illuminated an assortment of heavy-duty artillery, semi-autos, fully autos, revolvers, and some really hard military wear. Every knight must have his own sword when he goes into battle, whether he lives or dies. The bravest knight will never leave the castle to go to battle without his sword. Choose yours, Matteo said. Donovan carefully examined just about every handgun and every fully automatic rifle there was. Then he saw a pair of solid chrome 9mm Beretta 92Xs, all reflection clear chrome, and deadly like the blade of a sword. Donovan took both guns down and held them in each hand, turning his hands to look at these weapons from every possible angle. I choose these two, Donovan said with a look of surety in his eyes. Ah, the Berettas. Speed and accuracy. Good choice. I've got something else for you. Come on. Both men returned to the lounge, and Donovan noticed a really sexy bartender eyeing him as both men entered the room. The woman had on a tight red off the shoulder, bell sleeved, see through baby doll mini body stocking. All that was able to be seen was the woman's tiny black G string thong. The see through effect did just what it's supposed to do, show enough and accentuate the details. Her name's Corinthia Valenzuela. Give her clothes back so she can make you a drink, Mateo said, having busted Donovan addressing the bartender with his eyes. Would you like a drink, sir? Corinthia asked in Spanish with a smile. A perfect Incredible Hulk with 6 ice cubes, please, Donovan replied in perfect Spanish. The woman turned to make the drink, and Donovan returned to find a seat. He sat down to a conversation already in progress. But I'm not going to have anyone interrupting my affairs, Denise. And that's why I'm sending Donovan to take care of this, Corvinzo said, and Corinthia arrived with Donovan's drink. Mister, your drink, Mr. Donovan, Corinthia said in Spanish, and Donovan took the glass, then took a sip. Thank you, Donovan said in Spanish. No problem. Imagine my lips around that thick cock of yours tonight, my love. Corinthia replied in Spanish with a smile, then walked back to the bar. Donovan started to cough hard after what she told him, but made it look like a badly swallowed sip. Corbinzo and Denise both laughed as Donovan caught his breath. They both knew what that woman just told him. Donovan, I'm going to give you a key of 100% pure cocaine. I want you to take it into Harlem and give it to a guy named Enrique Rojas. It doesn't matter who it's for or why. Will you do it? Corbinzo asked. Go to New York City? I've never been there, Donovan replied, then took a smooth swig of his drink. Yo, that's a good drink. Donovan chugged the rest of it and held his glass up. I'll go. Should I expect any rebuff from anyone? Donovan asked. No. But always know what's going on around you at all times, Denise said. Donovan, all three of us know that in life, when you interact with people and spend times in the lives of others, you never know what's going to happen or who you're going to meet. Denise said. Donovan, do you smoke pot? Mateo asked. Come again? Donovan said, making sure he heard that question correctly. I said, do you smoke marijuana? Corbinzo repeated. Yes, I do, Donovan replied proudly. Corinthia, go get a pound of white Tahoe cookies and give it to our guest, please, Mateo said, and the bartender went into the room Donovan just came out of. That sounded like you said a pound of white Tahoe cookies, Donovan said, curious. It'll knock you on your ass, kid, Denise said, then snickered. Corinthia returned with a rectangular package of compressed buds, all wrapped up in clear saran wrap. You could still smell the potency through the plastic. She handed it to Donovan, and he casually stood up to stretch his legs. Here's this, Corbinzo said, handing Donovan a kilo of cocaine. Wednesday, you'll be going to New York City. I'll have a friend of mine pick you up from Teterboro Airport. Be ready. I will, Donovan replied, then left the lounge. Saturday, August 27th, 2022. Heather and Donovan were over at Zoe's house hanging out. Donovan and Zoe were playing Madden 23 on the PS5. And Donovan actually picked the Jacksonville Jaguars, while Zoe picked the Kansas City Chiefs. The Jags haven't won a Super Bowl since the OJ trial. You really think you're going to win against me? Zoe said, then scored against Donovan and stood up. I told you the Jags will never beat my Chiefs, D-Squeeze. Heather burst out laughing at Zoe's comment and paused from texting Ashley to look at an embarrassed boyfriend. He met eyes with her and grumbled under his breath, returning to the 64-3 game. I'm sorry, babe. I know you're getting your ass kicked, but I told you don't pick the Jaguars, Heather said, laughing. It's a freaking video game, dollface. It don't matter who you pick, Donovan replied, getting frustrated playing the game. Well, it don't help, Heather said, getting up and getting in her boyfriend's face. The Jaggies. Heather shrieked as Donovan got up and grabbed her and lifted her at her sides while tickling her. Heather laughed and kicked, resisting as Donovan dropped her playfully on the couch and tickled her legs and her sides. Stop! I'm gonna pee, Heather said, laughing. Zoe turned the game off and turned on Entertainment Tonight, then sat down on the couch while Heather pinned her boyfriend to the couch, wrestling with him until they both got tired and rested. The episode aired a segment about the latest on Sly Stallone. Actors Kevin Hart and Mark Wahlberg had a few things to say, and then came the top story. Back to you, Kevin, Lauren Zima said. Then the camera switched back to Kevin Frazier. In our top story tonight, we go deep into the criminal underworld, and we ask a question. Why was the only son of Antonio Bricks Lovato, the deceased New York Mafia underboss, Donovan Lovato, at Excess Nightclub in a shootout with what sources told me were Chinese gangsters? As a matter of fact, newlyweds Carter Room and Paris Hilton were there, and they saw it all. My husband and I were out at Excess in Vegas, and these two young people came and hid in our section. The bald guy said his name was Donovan and that there were Chinese gangsters with guns coming. This Hispanic girl, she might have been Mexican, I don't know, but she was with him and she told us to leave, and we did. And then gunshots fired back in the dance floor behind my husband and I, Paris Hilton reported on the camera. Donovan Jean-Pierre Lovato was born in 2006 to Denise crime family underboss Antonio Bricks Lovato and his wife Karen Leanne Ray Lovato. Their marriage tragically came to an end 10 years ago on Sunday, July 8, 2012, when the family Benz was hit head-on by a semi-truck, killing all three adults at the scene. But the FBI publicly testified that Donovan was killed in the accident. So why is he here in Vegas at Excess Nightclub and not at home doing his homework to turn into his teacher at Henderson High where he goes to school? Are you serious right now? Zoe asked, turning to Donovan. Excess Nightclub in Vegas? Paris Hilton and her new husband Carter Room? A shootout with Chinese gangsters? We gotta go now, Donovan said in anger. Now they know where the fuck we are. Donovan, wait, Heather called, following her boyfriend to the car. Bye, Zoe. Heather ran and hopped over the door of the Ferrari as Donovan got in. There was silence as Donovan backed out, threw the car in gear, and sped home like a bat out of hell. This was bad. Heather's life is in danger. His life is in danger. What are the chances that anyone in either triad just saw that? Donovan pulled up into their driveway and she followed him inside. He gathered his things, his bags that he'd brought to stay with her after her mom's death. Heather stopped in mid-stairway, meeting Donovan, stopping Donovan. You going somewhere without me? Heather asked. No, I'm taking all this that I brought into your life out of it, Donovan replied, then moved past her, headed downstairs. Oh, you're not going anywhere. Heather ran past him and stood in his path. I think I told you that I love you, Heather began to step closer to him. I don't care anymore that I drove you to deliver a bomb and became an accomplice to murder. I loved you before then, and I still love you now. Look, if I stay, we're dead. You, me, we're both dead, Donovan said, then threw his bag down on the stairs in a fit of rage that showed in his eyes. That was a protective anger. I don't want that, doll face. And I don't want a life without you in it. If this is what our life is going to be, then I'm down. Life can bring it. Because I love you and I'm not leaving you, baby, Heather said in a raised voice. Donovan just defeatedly sat down on the stairs and put his hands together. Out of options. Out of chips. Unable to decide whether to fold or draw another card and play on. Heather sat down next to him and put her arms around him. Donovan, this is our life. I'm 17 years old, and I don't know any more than you do about it. But I know that whatever comes our way, we'll get through it together. I'm not going to let you fall, and I believe you've got me. It's okay to be afraid and not know what to do, Heather said, then turned his head to look at her. I'm afraid. I'm afraid of losing all the family I have left. You. We can call it Jack Dawson and Rose Decatur, I jump, you jump, love, or whatever you want. Just call it you and me. Donovan called Britt and told her that they were on their way over. Heather and Donovan would keep the house and sell it later. But he made it clear that he was moving out and getting a place with Heather. Britt said that she would call Zoe and see if he could contact his dad. Where was Donovan going to move? And how was Miss Rochelieu going to take this? Someone is going to have to tell her something. Mom's not home right now, so we can make our move now, dork. See you when you get here, Britt said, then ended the call. Donovan pulled up in the driveway a couple minutes later, and he and Heather went inside. She followed Donovan to the kitchen and found Britt popping a Dr. Pepper can. I'll be downstairs packing, Donovan said. Zoe's on his way to help, Britt called from upstairs. Heather looked around this nice man cave that Donovan lives in. Everything suited him perfectly. The weight benches, the dumbbells, and the heavy kicking bags, and the Wing Chun dummy. Donovan pulled all the clothes out of the closet, and they took them up, putting them in the back of Britt's car. Britt was taking the guns and laying them all out on the bed when Heather and Donovan came back down. What the fuck? Heather said, seeing the guns on the bed. Where'd all these guns come from? A hideaway that used to be my dad's. Come on, Britt. We'll put the guns in my back seat, Donovan said, then grabbed 3 cases that housed a single piece of hardware in each one. Heather grabbed those linen bags out of the back of the closet. Britt and Donovan put the guns in the back seat of the Ferrari, and Zoe pulled up in his tricked out, completely restored 96 Chevy Impala sitting on 30-inch Savini diamond and blue polished Carpi chrome rims, with a custom forged chrome grill pushing Ice Cube as he slowed to a stop. Yo, D-Squeeze, what's poppin'? Zoe said as he walked up to follow them inside. Gotta get a place for Heather and I. Come on, Donovan said. Zoe followed them through the house and downstairs to Donovan's bedroom. Heather had pulled all the bags out of the closet. Damn it, what's in these bags, babe? Heather asked, sitting down to rest. We don't have time. Zoe, can you see if your dad has any properties in Vegas? Donovan asked. I'm going to get these bags in the car. Britt and Zoe, grab the guns, please. I know Lovato's got the diamonds. I could go in there right now, kill them all, and get the diamonds, Shiana said, watching Lovato and the 2 other teens load belongings into 2 vehicles. Lovato looks like he's moving out after what happened the other night. Shiana Wong continued to watch those 2 teenagers load the vehicles, with the other teenagers now with large white bags. Then car doors opened. I think they're all leaving. I'm going to follow them and let you know what I find out, Shiana said, then ended the call. Shiana followed the Ferrari, the Benz, and the Impala north to Las Vegas. Lovato has no idea he's been found. She wanted to go in that house and slit their throats, then retrieve the diamonds and leave their bodies to rot. But Shifeng Lao did not consent to the murders. The Porsche trailed behind the small entourage of teenagers north on Interstate 515. Her only concern was to get those 3 jewels back into their family's hands. The only other thing that matters to Shiana was finding out who set up her sister Zena May Wong and kept her from getting the diamonds. Now Shiana's sister is in a Chinese prison for 50 years and the traitor is among the living. I'm going to find out who ratted you out, Zena, Shiana said to herself, thinking out loud. Shiana looked around at the strip as she followed the entourage straight onto Las Vegas Boulevard. Donovan drove his Ferrari into the entrance of Towers at Allure Condominiums, 200 West Sahara Avenue. Josiah told his son that he would meet them all there. The others followed the Ferrari to the parking lot outside the building and got out. There's my dad there, D-Squeeze, Zoe said, pointing to the red Audi R8 driving by them to park. The 4 of them met up with Zoe's dad as he got out of the car. Hey, Britt, Donovan, and Heather. How are you doing since Josiah began? I'm a survivor, Mr. Taylor, but I am still grieving over the loss of my mother, Heather replied. You going to have any problems with the residency? School talking about contacting the state, or Josiah asked. Miss Appleford said she would work with us, Donovan said. remembering the $100,000 payoff. Well, if I can help in any way, let me know. Now, about properties in this building, there are several. But what kind of price are we looking at? Josiah asked. Top floor suite, please, Donovan asked humbly. The elevator doors parted on the top floor, and Josiah took them to Donovan and Heather's new home. Heather and Britt ran off to look around while the tour began. The home was an absolutely stunning penthouse with immaculate views of the Las Vegas Strip. The elevator opens to your private foyer with a decorative lit glass ceiling. Some of the superlative interior features include beautiful marble flooring, walls of glass, graceful crystal chandeliers, and custom lighting throughout. The living room offered the opportunity to entertain like royalty with an abundance of space to accommodate numerous guests, a lavish full bar that could rival an upscale casino, and verandas with views that span across the entire valley in the twinkling Las Vegas city lights. Every bedroom has its own private en-suite and a viewing veranda, while the master suite is the perfect place to retire at the end of the day. The entire tour of this penthouse condo took about 30 minutes, but halfway through, the exquisite detail and craftsmanship, the decor, the marble, the view from the 41st floor, all of this home had Donovan by the wallet. Josiah will take it, Donovan said, seeing Heather and Britt come into the living area. Okay, let's go talk some business, Josiah said. Heather, Britt, can you help me get our things up to the condo, please? It was about 8:15 p.m. when the happy couple finally got everything put away. Everything they brought with them had a proper place now. The place was completely furnished, but some changes to the home decor would be made. How do you like our new home? Donovan asked, wanting to hear his girlfriend's mind. This doesn't even seem real, Heather replied, looking around at their new home. We're living in a $4.3 million condo, Donovan, that you just bought. How am I supposed to feel about all of this? This? Where'd the money come from, huh? No games, Heather said. Donovan sighed. Dollface, I don't know how to tell you this, but the money was my dad's and it was hidden from people who wanted it, Donovan began. And this is what your dad was murdered over? I mean, seriously, Heather interrupted and got it from the couch. What if someone comes looking for this money and kills us? Donovan got up and went into the master bedroom, not ignoring his girlfriend, but to commemorate the first night in their new home. He returned to the living room, walking past Heather with a pound of marijuana and some Optimo cigarillos. Have you even heard one word that I've said? Heather asked, following Donovan to the couch. Babe, I'm not ignoring you. But can we enjoy our first night in our new home? Order us some pizza, please. None of that Domino's or Pizza Hut stuff. Some really sloppy, falling off the bread, stringy cheese pizza, and put whatever you want on it. Donovan said, then Heather touched the package in his hand. What's that? This is how we're going to celebrate our new home together, babe. Donovan said, then tore open a corner of the package, letting his girlfriend see what was inside. That's weed. I've never smoked weed before, Heather said. Then we are about to get lit, Donovan said, laughing at Heather's reaction to drugs in their home. Whatever, I'm going to order dinner, Heather said, smiling at her boyfriend's personality. One of the things she loves about him. Donovan carefully tore the plastic. Dollface, grab me a pound-sized Ziploc bag from the kitchen, please. Okay. Heather returned to the couch with a large Ziploc bag while on her phone ordering pizza and watched her boyfriend pull the long branch-like buds from the package and put chunks into the bag. There were some long buds, short buds, but a lot of compressed flour. Heather took a bud out as long as half of her forearm by the bottom of the stem and smelled it. I can't, Donovan. I've never done drugs once in my life. Weed is not a drug. It's a relaxer, Donovan replied and looked at her. And you need to relax. Enjoy this moment in our lives. Dollface, this is our first home together. Come here. Heather followed Donovan out onto the balcony that was lined with clear plate glass all the way around to accentuate the detail in the view. Look out there. You see that down there? Donovan said, pointing to life moving through Vegas. That's life going on down there. And here we are, way up here above it all. Look over there. The stratosphere and the Vegas Strip. I'm not sorry I bought this place, and I'm not sorry that I did it for you. I'm not asking you to be, babe. I'm just worried for our lives. Do I have a right to be? Heather said, following her boyfriend back inside. This isn't a $40 a night hotel room we're in. Dollface, your feelings are valid and I respect them. But I'm protecting you. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but whatever it is, I'm going to do it loving you. Aw, that's the sweetest thing any guy's ever said to me. I love you, Heather replied with a smile. I love you too, babe. Now can we smoke? Donovan replied. We? Heather asked, following Donovan to the couch. By the way, our dinner should be here in about 20 to 30. Good, now come smoke with me, Donovan said. Heather watched her boyfriend break up some buds, wet a cigarillo, and split it down the middle with his knife, put the buds in the wrap, lick it, stick it, and flick the lighter. Heather was so mesmerized by the way her boyfriend smoked that blunt of good smelling weed that he doubled over and coughed hard. Heather laughed at Donovan as he held the blunt out to her. He was trying to communicate through the profuse coughing. He was red-faced as he coughed hard. Heather took the blunt and took a hit. Donovan had begun to regain his air, and Heather doubled over, coughing her lungs out. That's some good weed. You okay, Dollface? Donovan asked. Heather was coughing so hard from that one hit that drips of drool escaped her mouth as she coughed, red-faced and trying to breathe. Donovan laughed as he slapped her on the back a few times to help her catch her breath. There were tears around her eyes and coming down her cheeks from the coughing, but she felt the high from that first puff. Donovan took a slow, smooth drag on the blunt, then hit it again, then passed it to his girlfriend. Heather hit the blunt again, this time more slowly, then smiled as she looked at her boyfriend. His gray eyes were so bloodshot. I'm really feeling this. This is some good shit, babe. What kind is it? Heather said, passing the blunt back to Donovan. White Tahoe cookies. It's really good shit. The doorbell sounded like an old clock bell when it was pressed. Their dinner was here. Heather, will you please go get that? Sure, Heather said, and laughed coolly as she got up. The Verity pizza delivery guy stood outside this penthouse condo thinking to himself, pizza? Whoever's living here don't need no pizza. The door opened and there stood a really young-looking hot blonde girl wearing a tight pair of iridescent booty shorts with 2 buttons just above her crotch. His eyes moved up her midsection to the matching iridescent micro-string bikini top. The girl was holding a fat blunt in her right hand, and it was lit, and trailing in a string of smoke. Heather's hair was down and tousled with sexiness, hanging around her shoulders. This guy was obviously checking her out. Is that our pizza? Heather asked with a smile. Yeah, I'm sorry. Guess I was in a thought. Here, ma'am, the delivery guy said, trying to hide his guilt for checking her out. Hey, my name's Rick, and that smells like white Tahoe cookies. Wow, that's exactly what type it is. And you want to buy some? Heather replied. Yes, that's some good shit. Stuff, excuse me, Rick said. And Heather laughed. Come on in for a minute, Heather said. Rick came inside the condo and looked around, closing the door behind him. The place was like royalty. He sat down on the 14-foot gray crescent moon sofa with red and white pillows and glanced out the windows at Vegas. Rick, Heather said, and he turned around. Come here into the kitchen. Rick casually made his way to the kitchen, looking around along the way, and there was some big bald guy in this really exquisite kitchen with almost a 1960s look to it. Babe, this is Rick, the delivery guy. Rick, this is my boyfriend, Donovan, Heather said. Shit. Nice to meet you, Donovan. You know, I'm not going to be disrespectful, but I am going to be honest, Rick said, then took a seat on the third bar stool. I've been doing this pizza delivery job my entire 11th grade year, and I meet a lot of nice people. But honestly, when she opened that door, I was like, oh my God, please be single. Donovan, Heather, and Rick laughed at the abrupt honesty of this guy who was checking Heather out. Yeah, she's a bad girl, Donovan said, and Heather slapped him on the ass quite hard and giggled. No, I'm not. So, Rick, this strain's 135 an ounce, 75 a half, and 50 a quarter. What you trying to get? Donovan said, then passed Rick the blunt. I'd like a half, please, Rick said, then hit the blunt and delved over. 2 seconds later, coughing hard. Heather and Donovan laughed. Rick was bent over with one arm on the bar top, coughing while holding the blunt, eventually catching his breath. Whew, Rick said, breathing in and out to relax his breathing. Yeah, that's some good weed. What school do you go to, Heather? Heather asked. Hindi High. Started my freshman year there, Rick replied, passing the blunt to Heather. Wow, we do too, Heather replied. So if you ever need any more, we're right there at school, Donovan said, then took the blunt, handing Rick a half-o of all buds. Dude, I still got to work till 11. I'm fucked up, Rick said and let out a short chortle as he dug out the money. Here, Donovan. Thank you so much. Not a problem, Rick. Nice meeting you, Donovan said. Then the front door closed, and they were alone again. Rick thought you were hot stuff, dollface, Donovan said, then passed Heather the blunt. I know. Maybe we should invite him into a threesome next time we order, Heather replied, then laughed at her boyfriend's facial reaction. You've had enough weed, Donovan said, playfully taking the blunt from Heather. Excuse me? Heather replied. Wednesday, August 31st, 2022, Henderson High School, 8:51 a.m. 4 black 2023 Hayabusas sped east on US 95 and took the Highlands Hills exit to go north on College Drive. The 4 Venom Triad gangsters knew where Donovan went to school, and they were sent by Shiana for the diamonds. One of the gangsters revved the engine on his bike as he pulled into the senior parking lot as some students looked their way. Those gangsters didn't care. They were here to kill. They cocked their Intratec Tech 9s and ran inside the main building. The second class period of school had come to its end, and the students had about 3 minutes until third period. The halls were filled with students. Heather and Donovan were at Heather's locker talking before class. The 4 Venom Triad gangsters split up so they could find Donovan Lovato. A school security guard rounded the corner, passing some students. One of the gangsters saw the security guard just as he rounded the corner and shot 7 rounds at the security guard, hitting him right in the chest and the forehead, sending echoes through the halls, frightening the students in that area. The 7 gunshots echoed through the halls loudly, and the reaction was one of fear and curiosity. The gangster ran up the stairs, passing students with his tech in hand. The others were looking around the school for the same person. The screams from somewhere in the school had caused a mental alert throughout the school. Donovan looked down the hall and saw what he thought he saw. Damn it! Come on, Donovan said, grabbing Heather by the arm. Heather followed her boyfriend, looked behind her to see a Chinese gangster running at them both down with a Tech 9 in hand. 8 rounds fired from the Tech and set the school off with screams and flocks of students running for their lives. Donovan and Heather took a right turn, then headed for the junior parking lot, running through students and staff. When we get out the store, go to your car, get in and stay down, Donovan said. Then both of them exited the school. Heather split off from Donovan and ran for her car. Donovan looked behind him to see 3 more gangsters exit the school and run after him alone. Donovan got in his Ferrari and it was on. That sexy Black Panther of a Ferrari roared as he sped south on College Drive and got on the US 95 highway. There were now 4 Hayabusas on his tail and morning traffic. He sped past a semi-truck and trailer as the 4 bikes gained on him. Donovan reached under the seat and pulled out a Taurus G2C 9mm, and the first gangster fired 6 rounds at the Ferrari as it cleared the semi-truck but missed. Donovan saw one of the bikes ride up on the driver's side of a blue Honda Civic on the inside lane and passed it. Donovan shot the gangster 4 times in the chest from 27 feet away at 90 miles an hour. Just as the bike cleared the Honda, the gangster fell off the bike and was run over by the Honda. The other 3 Hayabusas sped up, and one of them came up on his right side. The Ferrari was doing every bit of 100 miles an hour. The second bike rode up and opened fire, blowing out the taillights on the Ferrari as it sped up. Donovan slammed on the brakes, hitting the bike and destroying the front end, sending the rider flying over the handlebars of the bike and over the trunk, landing helmet first in the back seat of the Vert Ferrari. Donovan looked at the gangster and shot him once through the visor at point-blank range. He had to get this body out of his car. The Ferrari sped through traffic, taking these last 2 Hayabusas on a hard joyride. Donovan pulled into the middle lane as the third bike rolled up on him and opened fire. He swerved the Ferrari into the far lane as the bullets penetrated the entire right side of the car. Then both bikes sped past the Ferrari and past a semi-truck and trailer. The last 2 bikes are just up at the front of the semi. What are they planning? Then both bikes pulled out in front of the semi as if they were retreating, but Donovan knew they were trying to draw him out. The 2 bikes paired up in the middle lane, and the one on the right turned and fired at the Ferrari, penetrating the windshield with bullets. "Fuck this," Donovan said in anger. He sped the Ferrari up to 110 miles an hour, then just tapped the brakes, turned the Ferrari so that the tires slid sideways in the middle lane, and shot the gangster on the left 5 times in the back, and the bike tumbled over. Then shot the last gangster 3 times in the back of the helmet, sending him and the bike to the pavement. Ashley was at Heather's new condo. The 2 of them left the school after the Henderson Police Department completely evacuated the school. There were no suspects because Donovan killed them. He got rid of the body behind a Publix on Southeastern Avenue, leaving it in a dumpster, then sped home. It was almost 10:15 when the front door opened and Donovan came in. "Oh my God," Heather said, running to her boyfriend's arms. "Oh my God, I was worried about you, babe. Are you hurt?" "No, I'm fine. Are you both okay?" Donovan replied, seeing Ashley. "The school was completely evacuated before they let us all go home." "What the fuck was that about?" Ashley answered. "The diamonds. Those 4 men were part of the Venom Triad, and they were going to do us right there in the school to get their jewels," Donovan said, then looked at his watch. "What?" Heather asked. "I have to go to New York City," Donovan replied, being serious. "Right now?" Heather asked in disbelief. "We were just shot at by a murderous triad. You've got to run off to New York City? What the fuck for?" "A job," Donovan said. "I love you and I will explain, but not right now. Will you please take me to Henderson Executive Airport?" Heather was indeed mad at her boyfriend. How did Mafia wives feel in the relationship with their boyfriends and husbands when they went off on to do a job? The drive was a quiet one between the both of them. She turned the stereo up as My Immortal by Evanescence pumped through the speaker system. Donovan knew he was in trouble, but it would have to wait. Heather sped south on I-15, headed toward the private airport. It was a 21-minute drive, but with his girlfriend being so pissed off at him, the ride seemed shorter. The car slowed to a stop outside a hangar. Donovan saw Matteo Corbenzo's private jet and Geraldo, his pilot, standing over by the jet. But he didn't want to go and leave the 2 of them in this condition. Inside, he was crying, but he wasn't ready or confident enough to share his emotions with her to that degree. "Dollface," Donovan began. "Listen to me," Heather began and turned to him with tears streaming down her face. "I'm scared of losing you to this life. Today, the other night at the club in Vegas, you were shot, Donovan. I need you here with me. I don't need you resting cold in some graveyard." "Heather, I don't know what you want me to say. I love you." "Do you, baby?" Heather threw her arms around his neck, sobbing in his arms. "If you love me, then come home to me," Heather said, then kissed him deeply. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for your support. Please stay tuned for Chapter 12. I love y'all. One love to everybody. Harry's my team, front of the house, back of the house. I love all y'all. I'm out.